And let me give you guys a quick update right at the beginning of this video, because I shot this video Sunday night, but then Konami later announced that they were going to be extending the cancellations of Yu-Gi-Oh events all throughout the TCG, regionals, YCS, even the premier event for Eternity Code. So when I heard that information, it just kind of made me want to double down on all my thoughts and opinions in this video. But obviously I didn't have the information when I made the video. But yeah, it just kind of makes me feel stronger about the fact that I think that the secondary market is about to crash. There is not going to be demand for Yu-Gi-Oh cards, the high-end competitive ones, for another month on top of what we already knew that we weren't going to have. And that's just something that I wanted to update you guys on. What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, giving you guys a quick discussion video on why I personally believe the Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game is going to become a hell of a lot more cheaper than it's been in the past recently, and especially from a competitive standpoint, also especially in the short term. So if you guys have been keeping up with the news, obviously you know about the COVID-19, the coronavirus, the crush card virus as we call it in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, and just like it is absolutely crushed the stock market, or the real life stock market, which it's kind of interesting because I just recently got into the stock market heavy over the last couple of weeks, and as crazy as it's been, where it's been an absolute roller coaster, it was actually good for me because I was able to buy stocks dirt cheap. But as much as it has devastated the actual stock market, I feel like it's going to devastate the secondary market when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh, and it's for a couple of reasons, and I want to talk about those reasons in this video. So the first reason why is uncertainty and demand. And it's interesting because if you ask any investor, or you ask any broker, anybody who knows anything about the real life stock market, they'll always tell you that the market hates uncertainty, right? No one likes, investing in a company when you don't know what their earnings reports are going to be, you don't know their management, when there's just a whole bunch of questions and there aren't a lot of answers. Well, right now in Yu-Gi-Oh, we're kind of dealing with a situation like that. When it comes to these events that are constantly being canceled, basically on, it kind of seems like a day-to-day basis, there's a ton of uncertainty in the Yu-Gi-Oh community. None of us know, and you can speculate and I can speculate in this video, but none of us knows for certain when our next major competitive event is going to be. You guys know when it comes to the TCG, basically we're on hold. There are no YCSs. The UDS circuit is over, and obviously regionals for the next month across Europe, Latin America, and North America have all been canceled. And in my opinion, that uncertainty of us not knowing when our next major competitive event is going to be anywhere in the TCG is probably just going to lead to a lot less demand when it comes to these competitive cards. I mean, let's just think of this logically. Would you feel inclined right at this moment as you're watching this video to pick up a Borreload Savage Dragon or an IP Mask Arena, an Appaloosa? If you just didn't own any of these cards, why would you need to pick them up? You have no idea when you'll actually be able to use them at a major event. And if you had thousands of Yu-Gi-Oh players who were able to go to YCSs and regionals over the next 6 weeks leading up in the national season, it wouldn't be an issue. I feel like the market would be perfectly fine. And obviously, if there isn't very much demand for these high-end level cards because there aren't any competitive events, then the prices are just going to start tanking. They're going to go into a free fall. In fact, it's actually very similar to what happens every year after the Yu-Gi-Oh World Championship. You guys know each year, basically like around August, after the Yu-Gi-Oh World Championship, there really aren't any regionals or any YCSs immediately after that. House of Champs, I believe, calls it kind of the Yu-Gi-Oh off season, and basically there's like a 6-week period where there isn't anything going on. And historically, this period has been one of the cheapest points, or I believe the cheapest point of the entire year to buy a lot of these high-end cards, because no one is really buying cards at that point. There aren't any events to actually use them at. This is the same exact thing. And by the way, I feel like this demand issue is going to affect brand new competitive cards as well. Even stuff like Dual Overload. I was watching a live stream by Yu-Gi-Oh Paisano, and he was talking about the set, and I completely agreed with him that the the cards are probably going to tank because it's super awesome to pull a needle fiber or a union carrier until you realize, okay, I can't play it at any actual tournaments for the next 2 months, and neither can anybody else. So I feel like because of that, even new card prices are probably going to end up tanking as well. Another major reason that I believe that the Yu-Gi-Oh secondary market is about to crash and these prices are all going to start tanking on a lot of these high-end cards is panic selling. And I will fully admit, and I'll just be transparent, guys, I am a victim of this. I've already started panic selling. Basically, I've had a play set of extravagances for forever, but I'm actively looking to move my extravagances. I've already sold one of them. I've got 2 more listed on eBay and TCG Player, and I think a lot of people are going to start doing that over the next couple of weeks. People are going to be listing tons of these high-end competitive cards because there are no events. People are going to start undercutting each other. The market's going to get flooded because, as I said before, there really isn't very much demand. But I honestly can't blame people who are panic selling right now. In the real life stock market, panic selling is something that I'm not a fan of. In fact, it's kind of what caused a couple of the crashes that happened last week alongside the crush card virus. But panic selling usually happens in Yu-Gi-Oh for, actually it can happen for a couple of reasons. Panic selling can happen because of reprints where people are like, oh goodness, this high-end competitive card that's like $100 just got, they just announced the reprint. Now all of our copies are going to be worth, $70 immediately. So people want to get ahead of that. People panic sell when they think that maybe a new ban list is coming out, or there's a new structure deck for an archetype that, maybe there's an older archetype with a high-end card that had never been reprinted. People might expect it to be in there, but the panic selling right now, a lot of it is going to do with the fact that we don't really know if there are going to be any events in the foreseeable future. And let's be honest, even though reprint season is still, most would consider, kind of far off, there's actually a possibility, and I think it's kind of strong, that maybe by the time Yu-Gi-Oh starts ramping up again, reprint season is going to be right around the corner. Look, I believe personally that we're not going to have any events in April. I know that right now Konami has only taken the first half of April off of they've taken it off the table. But if you've really been keeping up with the COVID-19, the crush card virus, you know that at least the experts in the United States are saying basically the numbers are going to go up before they go down. And I just don't think that it makes any logical sense that if the numbers are going up, if Trump has already called in the private sector to help with testing and they're going to have millions of more tests, if the numbers are just going to inevitably go up, I don't think Konami is going to be like, yeah guys, the numbers have skyrocketed, more events for you guys. Chances are they're basically going to wait until the numbers go down to have more events. So let's just say hypothetically that we don't have any events in April, maybe not even in May, and by the time we start having competitive events again, it's June. It's basically national season and then the Yu-Gi-Oh World Championship. Well, right after that, what happens, guys? We get Battles of Legends and we start getting the Megatons, and you've kind of lost the opportunity to get value out of your cards. In general, I think most Yu-Gi-Oh players are perfectly fine, maybe losing about 10% in value if it means that you can play your cards at events. Like if you had Appaloosa and you had the opportunity to sell it at $110 right here today, or you could play it at 2 regionals and a YCS and then sell it at 100, most people would just play at the events and then sell it at 100, knowing that, hey, at least I got to play, my 3 events with the card and I still made a good amount of money. But players no longer have that to fall back on. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we don't have any competitive Yu-Gi-Oh events through April or May, and Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't kind of start back up again until June. Well, that means that it's national season, and basically the only event you're actually going to be able to use all of those competitive cards at is your national championship, and I guess maybe the world championship if you end up getting there, but that's unlikely. I don't think a lot of competitive players are going to be willing to sign up for that, especially if you're somebody who has a ton of these cards. Maybe you have like $1,000 deck, do you really want to risk that, holding on to all of these cards just to play at one event, and then, immediately after your national event is over, okay, well, now Konami's starting to reveal cards from the Megatons. They're starting to reveal cards from, the Battles of Legends set, which we already know is coming out in July. And to that point, we know that's probably over the last year, Konami has had a pretty good track record of revealing these cards earlier and earlier and earlier. It's not at the point where we have to wait, a week before a set comes out to get online leaks or anything like that. At this point, Konami is just revealing sets to like Yugioh and they're posting videos of Dual Overload almost a month before the set comes out. So if you end up waiting for that one event that you're able to play at, by the time the event's over, maybe after a couple of days, they may have revealed a lot of high-end cards that you played, and then those cards might end up tanking in value because all of a sudden they're getting reprinted. And I feel like a lot of sellers, a lot of competitive players are not going to be willing to risk that. I know personally I'm not going to hold onto my extravagances in the hopes that I get to play at one event, up until the point where extravagance gets reprinted in the summer. I just rather go ahead and try to sell the card now and get as much money as possible. And if more people are thinking like me, then that just means that there are going to be more copies on the market. And obviously that means that we have to be competitive. We have to undercut each other, which means that the price is going to drop, guys. So in my opinion, I just think no matter how you look at it, when you take all the factors, when you take into consideration that supply is probably going to be very high because there are going to be a lot of players who realize I don't have any events to go to. Why am I holding on to all these expensive cards? There are going to be people who are motivated to try to beat out the reprint season. There's so much uncertainty going around, especially when the next big Yu-Gi-Oh event is going to be. And then demand isn't very high. People are not looking to go out and buy 3 copies of Lightning Storms and extravagances and all that stuff when there are no events that they can actually use them in. So I just feel like everything kind of points to the market basically crashing. It points to there being a lot of these high-end cards on TCG Player over the next couple of weeks, and the price is basically coming down, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 25% on average, and you may be being able to get some deals if you want to go ahead and risk it. But those are just my thoughts and opinions, guys. You leave yours in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.